A federal jury has found former President Donald Trump liable for the 1996 sexual abuse and defamation of former columnist E. Jean Carroll. She had accused him of rape, but the jury rejected that claim. Trump has now been ordered to pay her $5 million. He did not attend the civil trial and was absent when the verdict was read. On his social media, he called the decision a disgrace.
Joining us this morning with what's next is our 9 News legal analyst, Whitney Traylor. Thanks for coming in.
Sure, good to be here.
So this is really interesting. Now Trump's lawyers say that they do plan to appeal.
Yeah.
Can they do that? And if so, what would that even look like?
Yeah, an appeal is very normal. They can file an appeal. And you have to remember, at the trial court, we're dealing with issues of fact. Did he grab her? Did he do this? Did he defame her? And the jury decides that. On appeal, they're appealing issues of law. So here the lawyers are going to say, for example, you shouldn't have let the 2 other women testify. That was an error of law. And if the appellate court agrees, they can say, yep, they shouldn't have been able to testify, so we're going to send it back down to trial with those women not being able to testify. They could also challenge the amount of the verdict, and both sides can actually appeal. The plaintiff's side, if President Trump, former President Trump's team appeals, it's possible that the plaintiff could appeal something as well, since it's already on its way up.
How long can that go back and forth for?
That's a great question. It could go on for 20 years because you have to think about it. Once it goes up to an appeal, the court says, yep, we're going to remand it. Now you have another trial. There's issues of appeal on that trial. So this is why a lot of times a plaintiff will or a defendant will win, and during appeal, they'll still settle it for less than they won for because they don't want to go through that whole process. So it usually doesn't go that long, but it could, go on for many years.
Now, a big question that a lot of people are asking is about the fact that Trump didn't testify. Of course, we've seen video that was recorded back in November. I believe it was November of last year, the end of last year. And that seemed to be some evidence that a lot of people were bringing out against him. Did it hurt him that he didn't go testify this time?
I think it did hurt him, but I think it would have been just as hurtful if he did testify, because you have to understand he is a loose cannon. And, if I were his lawyer, I would probably err on the side of not having him testify because he just goes off the rails. And for example, so during his deposition testimony, which is still under oath, that's before trial, the lawyers get to ask them questions, court reporters taking everything down, and he said the most outrageous things, like, yes, a star can grab him by the genitals, fortunately, or unfortunately, or fortunately. He also went, when the lawyer, it was a woman lawyer, he said, well, you're not my type, for example, when he's talking about types. I mean, it was just really bizarre. And so I think that would have been damaging to have him on the stand, subject to cross-examination, because he would have tried to go all over the place.
And his lawyers are probably very concerned about that happening.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, in the fact that he didn't testify, so remember, the plaintiff has the burden of proof, so she had to prove it just by preponderance of the evidence, which means like 51%. The fact that they didn't put on a single witness, the defense didn't, so all they did was cross-examine the plaintiff's witnesses, which there were 11, and didn't put on a defense. So I think the optics, also say, not putting on your own witnesses, your own doctors, your own psychologists was a problem.
It's really interesting because since this happened, Republicans, lawmakers in Washington have already talked about, how this could affect his run for 2024. Do you think this will impact that?
I think it will politically, but you have to look at it. I mean, Reagan was known as the Teflon president, but this is an extreme, this is Teflon on steroids. I mean, it doesn't matter what he says or does, whether it's under oath, and now you have a jury, 6 men and 3 women, an objective jury, who's come back and said, we looked at the facts and this is what we believe. So on one hand, it doesn't matter what happens. His base gets stronger. They say this is politically motivated, but on the other hand, you now have this person convicted. This wasn't a criminal trial, but it was a civil trial. There was a judge and a jury. You're going to have the right to appeal if you think that there was something wrong. And I'm just talking to the keyboard warriors out there who are going to say, this is a political hack. It's all these improper motivations. Look, our courts of law work, our jury system works, and this is why you got a right to appeal now.
Well, now we'll have to see first what happens with the appeal and then with the presidential election. Whitney, thank you. Sure.